it is clearly evident that the financial system cannot stand on its own. It needs a crutch to do so. Those crutches are the easy monetary policy, whether that's from QE or low interest rates. And this is a policy doomed to fail. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Just a couple updates today. Wanted to get to a few things that show you that the financial system is falling apart. Beginning with this is just something I've been covering recently. Wanted to mention it at the beginning. And we're looking at Syria. The U.S. Defense Secretary arrived in Madrid on Sunday, beginning a European tour amid alarm over Russian bombardments in Syria and the refugee crisis sparked by the conflict. Now, I'm not going to get into the details of this, of course, and what's happening. I just wanted to keep a close eye on this because I feel like there could be some activity happening right now. Whenever you have a meeting of individuals, big, powerful individuals, some sort of big meeting, there's always a situation that occurs not too long after. Think about the Bilderberg meetings that occur, what have you, the Davos, the World Economic Forum. You always have an event that takes place after. It might just be a minor event, but it could be a major one as well. So let's keep our eyes on this, and I'm going to move on. Beef. Everyone is looking at the prices of beef. Many don't understand exactly what happens, but in the official CPI, or let's say the inflation rates, you look at this and find that if they want to calculate inflation, they do so based on a basket of goods. Now that basket, many people don't know this, but that basket changes over time. And what they say is that if individuals are not able to afford steak anymore, well, then they just buy ground beef, for example, and they can manipulate these numbers over time. And that's what it says here. Beef isn't for dinner anymore as Americans devour cheaper pork. At the bottom it says there's definitely been a slowdown in beef. A lot of it is about the price. People have changed their diets to different things. So the desire for it may still be there, but individuals choose the cheaper cuts of meat simply because they aren't able to afford what they used to. Now, why is this the case? There's much going on here, but I do believe that a lot of this is simply inflation. Things cost more in dollar terms because they've inflated the amount of money in circulation. I'm covering this all the time. The prices of different types of food, essentially, whether it's beef or eggs or poultry or whatever it might be, the price continues to go up, the dollar terms. It's not better than it was 10, 20, 50 years ago. In fact, it's probably worse now. But, of course, costs more dollars to buy it. This is another issue that I've been covering, and that is robots. This right here happens to be robots to lead fitness lessons for the elderly. Now, this is just one example of that. But think about what this means for jobs. The jobs can easily disappear because of robotics, because of automation. In some ways, this might be a very good thing. Jobs that we don't want to do. We have dishwashers, so we don't need to wash the dishes, and washing machines and dryers and things like this. But I do see the negative side of it as well, and it is undoubtedly going to replace, and it already has, going to replace jobs. So that's all I wanted to say for this. Ben Bernanke. Everyone loves Ben Bernanke because he printed lots of money and saved the world. That's right. And right here, this season, Ben Bernanke was able to sit through an entire Nationals game. During the financial crisis, 2008, he didn't have that luxury. And then what he said right here, I think there was a reasonably good chance that barring stabilization of the financial system, that we could have gone into a 1930s style depression. The panic that hit us was enormous. I think it was the worst in U.S. history. Of course, that was caused by their own policies, but let's forget about that for the time being and just think about the fact that they're mentioning this Nationals game. Right here, he said that more corporate executives should have gone to jail for their misdeeds. Now, this is extreme propaganda that we're seeing right here because he was all part of that. I'm going to show you what I wrote about in my book. I know you guys are aware of this. You are very well informed. In the first ever audit of the Federal Reserve, it was found that they gave $16 trillion, that's with a T, trillion, in secret loans to bail out American and foreign banks and businesses during the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. The Congress asked Ben Bernanke specifically, tell us who you gave the money to. You did a bailout, and at that time they thought it was only a few $100 billion, but they basically said, no, I'm not going to tell you. Literally, that's a literal quote. He said, no. Then they did a limited audit of the Federal Reserve, found it wasn't just a few $100 billion, which would be bad enough as it is. They did $16 trillion and gave it out to basically every institution around the world who's friends with them. And they say they're going to prosecute them. That's a complete lie. They never intended on that. They gave the bailouts to them. If you look at the banks in Canada, for example, banks in Canada received bailouts from the Federal Reserve. This is, in fact, still to this day considered a conspiracy theory, but it is documented. And Bloomberg released that data to the public. It's out there. It's available. But still today, considered a conspiracy theory if you say that the Federal Reserve bailed out Canadian banks. Absolute fact, but also a conspiracy theory at the same time. What's not a conspiracy theory is deaths draw attention to Wall Street's grueling pace. This is out of the New York Times. I've been covering this as well. Quite sad, but needs to be said that many individuals in the financial industry are either being murdered or perhaps they are committing suicide. And a lot of this is happening over and over again. It seems that such a high rate, in fact, of high-level individuals and those in the mid and lower levels too are either, like I said, committing suicide or becoming murdered for whatever reason. They're not really sure. But definitely seeing a pattern with this, and it's something very, very fishy. Last but not least, wanted to cover this. Record ATM fees rise toward $5, an average of $4.52. Now, many things could be the result of this here. And what I'm finding is generally that the dollars are losing value. Our dollars everywhere are losing value. Things cost more. Food is so expensive now. You go to the store, you go to a restaurant, you remember times not that long ago, and I'm not talking about decades and decades ago, but even in the recent past, where things did not cost this much. But it just continues to increase. Things are becoming more and more expensive, and I have to just repeat that the dollars are losing value. That's all I want to say for this video. If you did find it informative, please give me a thumbs up. Remember that your thumbs up essentially takes these videos and brings them up higher in the YouTube search results. So if someone wants to search for a particular video, let's say financial crisis, the more thumbs up a video has, the chances are that YouTube or Google's algorithm will pull it up to a higher level there. So it helps me out, and also it's a way for you to sort of share with other YouTubers without actually having to share it. So if you give me a thumbs up, that helps me. I appreciate it very much. And last but not least, just wanted to say that if you found this video informative, then of course you'll find my book, The Money GPS, even more informative. If you'd like to take a look through it, just head over to Amazon, hit the Look Inside feature, and you can flip through it for yourself. Take care.